The Pulse School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by Saskatchewan Pulse Growers and BASF.
Joining us here on Real Agriculture, we have Dennis Lang, Pulse Crop Specialist with Manitoba Agriculture. And Dennis, pea acres expected to be up significantly this spring, so peas going into fields, areas where they haven't been planted in probably decades. So good time to maybe do a bit of a refresher on pea agronomics 101 heading into planting here.
Yeah, things have definitely changed over the last 15, 20 years in the valley here. We've been used to grow quite a number of field peas in southern Manitoba. Acres kind of shifted into other crops. We started growing soybeans and edible beans. And now in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen a resurgence of field peas in southern Manitoba. Last year, our area average, so area average for risk area 12, was around 52 bushels an acre, or actually 60 bushels an acre in risk area 12, and provincially we were looking at about a 43 bushel average. So definitely some interest in growing field peas again. So that brings around some of the questions that growers have on seeding rates and things like weed control and plant populations and those types of things.
So seeding is just around the corner here. What are things that guys should keep in mind?
Well, a few things that growers keep in mind is, I guess, first of all, planting field peas. You typically want to get those in early. Get them in April, early May is ideal. You'll see your biggest yield bump from planting in that time period. Field peas are relatively frost tolerant compared to soybeans. They will take a lot lower frost. Some reports have even reported as low as -4, and they will tend to take a bit of frost. And as far as planting rates, typically you want to be in that, ideally 7 to 8 plants per square foot, but you want to be established plant stand somewhere around 5 to 6 plants per square foot. And that translates into, for the old school guys, anywhere from that 2.5 to 3 bushel per acre range.
It's probably decided by this point already, but what about field selection? What's the best?
Even just reviewing some of your records when it comes to herbicide records for start, look back on what you sprayed last year to make sure there was no potential issues that can come back and bite you. The Guide to Field Crop Protection does have some information on which products you have to be aware of, so definitely check with that. You want something that's relatively weed-free when you're planting peas because they're not as competitive and as some other crops. They don't cover the ground as quickly, and you want to keep that weed control done relatively early as well.
Well-drained?
Well-drained fields, probably another key point as well. One point that some growers might overlook is that if you've had soybeans in the rotation in the last 2 years, you would probably want to avoid that, putting peas on there, just because of the risk of volunteer soybeans coming in. And for food grade markets, the buyers don't like having soybeans in the peas. So definitely you want to talk to your buyer, and if you've had peas in the last 2 years, you may want to reconsider that particular field.
One of the reasons why growers here on the eastern side of the prairies went away from peas was disease years ago. Have things changed in that area, or what should growers keep in mind as we get into disease control season?
Well, I think one of the biggest things going for us in the valley is we haven't grown peas in 15, 20 years, so the diseases haven't been as predominant as what they will be in western Manitoba. Microspirilla blight is the one issue that we have to deal with here. There are some fungicide options that growers can spray around that flowering time to help prevent. Keeping in mind that you want to keep those plants upright, that's a big key. We talked about plant stands earlier. The reason for those plant stand numbers is the varieties that we're growing now are semi-leafless, so they have tendrils to interlock the plants together. The key into helping to reduce disease as well is making sure that the stand is thick enough to get those plants to interlock together, but not too thick that you may have some lodging issues and too much material there. So you have to keep that balance in there. But there are definitely some fungicide options that growers can use in crop, and that can be found in the Guide to Crop Protection, those various products.
And variety selection would also be part of that.
Yeah, variety selection does play a big role. In this area, Agassiz seems to be the largest variety grown, and I think a lot of that has to do with the markets that they're going into. I think when you're growing field peas, you kind of want to start from back. You kind of want to start backwards rather than looking at seeding rates. I think you need to look at the market that you're selling these peas into, and then kind of work your way backwards. So what I mean by that is, first of all, when you're picking a variety, pick a variety that the buyers want. And then from there, you go back through the harvest, meaning that you have to get a very clean, nice-looking sample in order to get that market. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by weed control through the season and also through field selection. So you can kind of almost work backwards so that at the end of the day, everything kind of relates back to the final product.
So speaking about harvest, what are some of the steps that we can take?
Well, the biggest things that you want to look at, the peas nowadays are all going to be, the use of a flex header to take the peas off is the common way to do it. Back 20 years ago, there were a lot of peas being swathed, and myself, growing up as a farm kid, I can still remember chasing swaths around the field after Dad was swathing. So now a lot more flex headers are being used. Come harvest time too, if you need to control some weeds in the field to make sure that there is no green plant material before harvest, you'll need to use a pre-harvest weed control to help clean those fields up. Probably one of the bigger keys is when those peas are ready to harvest, you harvest. Once the plant is mature and there's no green material and your harvest moisture is in that 17% range, you want to be in there harvesting. You don't want to be harvesting too early, because if you have green material in there and you combine that with dirt, you're going to have stained peas, and that can be a real issue on the quality side. So you just want to definitely be on top of it, and don't go in too early, don't go in too late. If you have wheat and peas ready at the same time, do your peas first.
All right. Any projection on pea acres in Manitoba this year?
Well, last year we were at 65,000 acres, and this year we could see 100 to 110,000 acres if all goes as planned. Looking outside on a day like today, you're thinking we're still a ways away, but you know what? With a little bit of sunshine, things will change in a hurry. So as long as we get in a timely period, I think we could hit that 100,000 mark this year.
All right. Thanks for your time, Dennis.
Thank you, Kelly.